Well, friends of Mundo Maldini, what a way to kick off 2025. A spectacular first league match. Valencia 1, Real Madrid 2. We're going to analyze a lot of things. We're going to look at the match in general, what Valencia did in the first half, what Real Madrid did in the second, and it was a fair win for Real Madrid. Red card for Vinicius was justified. We'll see how many matches Vinicius will miss, depending on what the report says. Logically, he might miss more or fewer games. There's a lot to analyze, a lot to discuss. I'm going to analyze all of that and much more because the match left a lot. Friends of Mundo Maldini. For example, Kylian Mbappe's performance, what Valencia did in the first half, Jude Bellingham's game, and Vinicius' performance as well. There are many things to discuss. The good things Valencia did, the not so good things they did, the good things Real Madrid did, the controversies, Jude Bellingham's actions, the disallowed goal for Kylian Mbappé, and what Bellingham did especially in the final stretch. In short, there's a lot to analyze in this Valencia 1, Real Madrid 2, which was spectacular. All right, let's go for it. Well, friends of Mundo Maldini, we'll talk more about the match later. Of course, there's a lot to analyze, but as you know, we're sponsoring the city, Ceuta, which is spectacular, and we're in one of the most emblematic places in the city. You have to make private visits, but you can definitely do it. The Califol door, I'll tell you in another video that this was buried for 1,000 years without being discovered from the time of the Caliphate of Cordoba, 11th century, and it's one of the great archaeological discoveries in Spain. It's here in Ceuta. You have to visit Ceuta. Friends of Mundo Maldini, you're going to be amazed. The city. Let's talk about the match. All right, let's go. Friends of Mundo Maldini. Where should we start? Where should we start? Let's start with the lineups. We'll begin with the 11 players from both teams, and then we'll dive a bit deeper into what this match was all about. Tomorrow, you'll of course have the ratings for both teams. Valencia will have Dimitri in goal, Svajtausenain, Fulkir, and Gasiorowski on the wings, with Tarrega and Mosquera as the centre-backs. It's true that Rioja, who played in midfield, helped Gasiorowski a lot on the left side because Madrid pressed hard at many moments. Barrenechea with Javi Guerra, who had a good start to the match, but then he really faded. On the right, Diego Lopez, then Andre Almeida and Hugo Duro, who scored Valencia's goal. Real Madrid has Courtois, Lucas Vázquez, Tchouameni, and I think we can definitely say that. Tchouameni as a centre-back for Real Madrid seems almost certain now, at least 1,000 for now. Rudy Gary Mendy, Valverde Ceballos double pivot. Valverde has been good. He had several long-range shots. In fact, in the first half, he was the only one who seemed like he could cause problems for Valencia. Fede Valverde nido Valencia, Ceballos. Rodrigo on the right. I'll talk a bit more in depth about Rodrigo later, but I found his performance to be almost, I would say, non-existent, honestly. Although he did have a header that was ruled offside. Jude Bellingham, who, even without having his best game, was very important in Real Madrid's victory, not just for scoring the second goal, but for other things that we'll discuss. Kylian Mbappé, Vinicius. Vinicius, as always, starting from the left side, he has created some problems, but I also want to talk a bit more in depth. But Vinicius' attitude, the red card for Vinicius, and what's going on with him. And then Kylian Mbappé, who I liked. I have to say that I liked Mbappe's performance. I think he did well. Let's get into the action and take a look at the first half while we see this picture of Valencia celebrating the goal, the first goal. There we see Rioja, who later scored the equalizer at the last moment. Valencia had a very good first half hour. The arrival of Corberán, the new coach of Valencia, of course. Well, in the end, Corberán has had time to work, of course, and I think he has given Valencia, friends of Mundo Maldini, some improvement. At least today I saw a clear improvement. Here we have Corberán, the former coach of West Bromwich Albion. I have seen an improvement in Valencia, a team that has had quite a bit of depth, that has played with a lot of intensity, and that in the first half was superior to Real Madrid for many minutes. He was getting to all the balls first, winning a lot of 50-50 balls, and the Valencia player was attacking a lot down the side of this guy Rioja, who I also thought was the best player. He had a good first half and played a solid game. And Valencia had a first half hour that for me was better than Real Madrid. Madrid often finds itself in this situation, friends of Mundo Maldini, where they give away too many minutes. Madrid came out sleepy, and they've come out sleepy in today's match again. They came out sleepy again. There were several plays in the first half. This first one that I want to analyze in depth with you, where Vinicius is asking for a penalty, honestly, I don't think it's enough. I don't think what Tarrega does is enough to call a penalty in this play. Yeah, it's a slight push, but I think it's more result of the action. Vinicius is falling down. I don't think it's a penalty. I do think the play where they call a penalty is a penalty, which Jude Bellingham would later miss. Hugo Duro's goal. Valencia was getting down the flanks really well. They were doing great on Fulki's side and also on Rioja's side. Fulki on the wing, Rioja as the winger. And the play from Fulki ends up with Hugo Duro scoring Courtois was being the best player for Real Madrid. Courtois was being the best player for Real Madrid in those first few minutes. So I think it was quite fair for Valencia to start winning the match. But analyzing the match in depth after that goal, Madrid gradually started to grow into the game. They started to get into it. Valencia had much more rhythm than Real Madrid in those first few minutes. Much more rhythm than Real Madrid. And I think that despite winning this match, Ancelotti can't be happy about many things that have happened with Madrid. He can't be satisfied. As I said, in the first few minutes, Valencia had a lot of depth, and Madrid was hardly creating any danger. Really, the little danger we saw from Real Madrid in the first half came from a couple of long-range shots from Valverde. As I said, in the first few minutes, Valencia had a lot of depth, and Madrid was hardly creating any danger. Really, from the little danger we saw from Real Madrid in the first half, it was just a couple of long-range shots from Valverde. Nothing more, honestly. This is the play we're going to see here. The goal. There's Fulkier's ball down the right side. Notice how the ball reaches the middle. It's a shot that Courtois barely manages to save once again. He almost made a great save, but the ball ends up deflecting to Hugo Duro, who has no problem scoring the first goal for Valencia. And from there, Madrid has logically started to grow. I want to talk about several things. First, let's dive into Jude Bellingham a bit. Tomorrow, you'll have a Wisecout report video of the match. But let's dive a little into Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham is playing closer and closer to the box. He's becoming less of a midfielder, less of a playmaker, and more of a forward or finisher. And today we saw it again. He just scored the second goal. The second goal is a serious mistake in Valencia's build-up. The mistake by Guillemont, who ultimately gifts the ball to Jude Bellingham, but still he needs to be in that position. And in the end, Madrid is going to need more midfielders behind Jude Bellingham. Oh, and Luka Modric has already scored since he came on in the second half. And it's not a coincidence, Yusan. It's not a coincidence. It seems to me, friends of Mundo Maldini, that Camavinga shouldn't be a starter in this team. I find it incredible. He played a good stretch as a left-back in the second half. I believe that Camavinga should be a starter in the midfield for Real Madrid in the matches where Luka Modric isn't playing. Because Jude Bellingham plays a different role higher up the pitch. In the end, Camavinga has nothing to do with it. Today it was Valverde. Ceballos, who hasn't been bad, but Camavinga. Alaba and Valverde can be a really good pairing for Real Madrid's midfield when they play with three up front. Really, that's what I think. Another topic from the match, answering the question of whether Real Madrid deserved to win the game. For me, the answer is yes. I think Madrid was much better than Valencia in the second half. He has trapped Valencia. Here we have Vinicius, and I want to talk a bit more in depth about him. He has trapped Valencia and ended up beating them. It's true that he takes advantage of a pretty serious mistake in Valencia's defense, but he does it with 10 players. He equalizes with 10 players and comes back to win with 10 players. And Madrid had a penalty in the second half that Jude Bellingham missed, which we're going to discuss now. A goal just barely missed by Kylian Mbappé, which we're going to discuss now. I also want to discuss Mbappé in depth. And then we're going to get into the topic of Vinicius. Vinicius has had some breakthroughs. Well, he was causing some problems. He wasn't having a great game by any means. He had asked for a penalty in a play that, for me, wasn't a penalty. And then he made that very serious mistake. A very serious mistake with the red card. Let's take a look at Bueno's play. The red card is that in the end, here you have the shot of Dimitrescu, who, by the way, saw a yellow card in a later scuffle and could have seen a yellow card in this one too, because Dimitrievski also provokes Vinicius, but Vinicius responds in the worst possible way. It's happened to Vinicius more times. I don't know if I remember correctly, but I think it was in a Champions League match, maybe against Leipzig, where he made a very similar play and miraculously wasn't sent off. It might be a bit of an exaggerated red card because it's not a blatant aggression, not a punch. Well, if it had been a punch, he would get more matches. It wasn't a punch, but what Vinicius does here can be considered aggression, and he's putting himself at risk. And I think Vinicius needs to be aware that he can't do these kinds of things because he's left the team with 10 players, and above all, he's going to miss more than 1 or 2 matches for sure. Vinicius needs to be much more mature on the field. He shouldn't respond to these things. And I think Vinicius needs to be aware that he can't do these kinds of things because he's left the team with 10 players. And above all, he's going to miss more than 1 or 2 matches for sure. Vinicius needs to be much more mature on the field. He shouldn't respond to these things. Usand is exaggerating Dimitrescu. Dimitrescu is exaggerating. But I believe that Vinicius is making a mistake, a serious mistake. He makes a serious mistake. This expulsion, friends of the world, Maldini, for me, here we have it again. He's making a serious mistake. I think he's a sensational, spectacular player. But things like this really hurt him and the team. Today, Madrid ended up coming back but left their team with 10 men. And I believe that the expulsion, I insist, is justified because of what Vinicius did. Here we're going to see it again. Look, I do think it's a justified expulsion. In other words, you're really buying a lot of tickets for him to get sent off. Vinicius' expulsion, Madrid is left with 10, but Madrid was pushing Valencia back. He misses the penalty. Jude Bellingham. By the way, I want to comment on the penalty. The penalty, by the way, let's take a look at the image here. The penalty seems very clear to me, very clear on Mbappé. 2009 is clearer than the one they didn't call, which I didn't think was a penalty. This is definitely a clear penalty. Mbappé is a little off balance, but it's a very clear push. And Jude takes the penalty, sends it to the post. It's going to be talked about a lot. Here we have Bellingham's shot. It hits the post. You'll see it. The ball hits the post. The subject of feet is going to be discussed a lot. Here it is very clear. There is no need to see many more shots. Dimitrescu's feet. As he does not touch the ball, in my opinion, the rules say that as he does not touch the ball, Dimitrescu goes directly to the post. There is no need to repeat. I think another thing where the rules are wrong, in my opinion, is that if a player like the goalkeeper steps forward, he's blocking the space for the shooter. So if the goalkeeper is further ahead, let's say the goalkeeper is much further ahead instead of being here because he's taking away a lot of space. He's forcing Bellingham to adjust his shot more. To me, it seems like he interferes in the play even if he doesn't touch it. It seems to me that surely with the rules in hand, it shouldn't be repeated, but I think that's one of the things that needs to be modified, and I believe penalty should be repeated. I honestly think it should be repeated. It wasn't repeated, and Madrid ended up winning the match anyway. This is the goal disallowed for Kylian Mbappé, which is a maneuver, by the way. Jude Bellingham's pass, I say the same thing again. If Bellingham has to play close to the area, in the end, it is leading to that. It is leading to that. And in the end, the way for Real Madrid to shine is if they have midfielders behind them who can supply him or feed him. Well, great pass from Jude Bellingham and the goal from Kylian Mbappé, who is offside by mere millimeters, but it's clearly offside. Here we're going to see it. We have it with VAR. You'll see it perfectly here. You can clearly see he's ahead. Clearly looking at this, because without VAR, this would never be called in a million years. But, well, offside for Kylian Mbappé, and the goal is disallowed. Madrid ends up winning the match thanks to that mistake from Hugo Guillamon and the goal from Tarrega, Jude Bellingham's goal in a match that, honestly, I think Madrid deserved to win. It leaves a lot of things, including this situation with Vinicius for Valencia, which is another blow for them, a team that is still a bit more down. But I think that within Valencia's defeat against a team like Madrid, which, by the way, is now at the top of the table, it's a pretty manageable loss. I do believe that Valencia can come out of this match feeling that there has been improvement. They competed very well in the first half against Madrid. They outplayed Madrid for many minutes. Madrid came back from being down with 10 players, which shouldn't have happened. It was a serious mistake by Valencia. Of course, Madrid deserved to come back. They were close to equalizing at the end. But yes, Valencia fans, despite the terrible result, being last, see the glass a little more half full, because I think Valencia showed quite a bit of improvement today. 2009 anyway. More tomorrow because there's a lot more to discuss about this match. A hug. Bye.